Hallo miteinander, ich möchte euch alle recht herzlich willkommen heißen zu dieser Session heute. Hier geht es um das Thema Global Secure Access von Microsoft. Still behind firewalls, use Microsoft Global Secure Access. Zuerst mal, bevor wir starten überhaupt, möchte ich allen Sponsor danken. Ohne Sponsors sind so Events nicht möglich. Es braucht auch immer Zeit, für solche Sachen vorzubereiten und auch zu organisieren. Herzlichen Dank den Sponsoren und natürlich auch allen Organisatoren, die da tatkräftig mitgearbeitet haben. Ich möchte kurz etwas zu mir sagen. Mein Name ist Alain Schneider, ich bin Partner und Lösungsarchitekt bei der withe GmbH. Ich bin Fokus Security und Compliance-Themen. Da geht es vor allem bei mir um Defender, Sentinel und natürlich jetzt auch das ganze Teil, was Entra ID anbelangt, gehört auch immer wieder dazu. Privat, wenn ich ein bisschen Zeit habe, dann versuche ich, ein bisschen draussen zu sein, ein bisschen Community zu arbeiten. Selber betreiben wir auch eine kleine User Group mit etwa 500 Members in der Schweiz. Und ja, da sind wir tatkräftig aktiv. Gut, um was geht es in dieser Session hier? In der Agenda möchte ich da schnell kurz darauf eingehen. Auf das Zero Trust Model, vielleicht haben das einige von euch schon gehört. Genau, das wird natürlich jetzt geshared hier. Ich bin aber extern, darum ist das Setup ein bisschen spezieller. Zero Trust Model, dann möchte ich kurz etwas über einen Projektscope erwähnen. So ein bisschen Blabla habe ich das benannt, aber es geht dann natürlich nicht nur um Blabla, sondern wir haben technisch auch natürlich etwas erreicht. Dann möchte ich euch gerne einführen in das Thema Microsoft Global Secure Access, also Security, Secure Edge und Internet Access, Private Access, was das ganz genau bedeutet. Vielleicht bevor wir das Projektscope anschauen, mal eine Frage. Ihr könnt jetzt das, glaube ich, da im Live-Event ist es nicht ganz gleich in Teams, aber wenn wir so physisch die Session oder auch vielleicht mal via Teams das normal machen, überlegt euch mal, braucht ihr heute VPN aus irgendwelchen Businessgründen für Zugriff klassische Legacy-Applikationen oder vielleicht File-Shares? Die meisten Firmen sind ja heute eigentlich noch nicht 100% Cloud oder so, dass alles schön super integriert ist und alle Daten dort liegen. Vielleicht tut ihr sogar den Traffic handeln, komplett über den VPN-Traffic, also dass man sagt, okay, wir haben unseren VPN-Traffic, ausser jetzt was gewisse Microsoft oder andere Services anbelangt, geht primär über das VPN vom Client aus und geht dann Richtung zentrale Firewall raus. Und die dritte Frage so an sich selber kann man sich stellen, habe ich die Erfahrung schon mit Zero Trust oder grundsätzlich habe ich das überhaupt schon mal gehört? Was bedeutet das ganz genau? Und haben wir uns schon überlegt, das in unserem Unternehmen vielleicht einzuführen, auch mal anzugehen und zu überlegen, was das eigentlich bedeutet. Und dann eine wichtige Frage, auch generell, das hat jetzt weniger mit Secure Edge zu tun, sondern mehr mit generell Design, Entra ID, Hybrid Join, Entra ID Join. Was mache ich heute mit meinen Geräten? Sind die tendenziell noch hybrid oder sind sie tatsächlich schon fast alle auf Entra ID Join Only? Heieiei, ist das so schwierig. Schnell ausschalten, Moment. So, jetzt sollte das da nicht mehr passieren. Da haben wir ein kleines Bild so als Veranschaulichung, das ich gerne mal zeigen möchte. Ihr seht hier aus einem Game ein interessantes Bild. Und wenn wir das so ein bisschen analysieren, sehen wir auf der linken oberen Seite, wir haben uns entschieden, in dieser schönen Talebene ein Schloss zu bauen oder eine Burg mit einem grossen Tor und Wachtürmen. Und hinten dran haben wir auch noch ein paar Leute platziert, die das so sauber schützen. Wir haben nämlich auf der rechten Seite einen schönen Schatz, den wir protecten wollen. Wir können das vielleicht ein bisschen mit unserem Netzwerk vergleichen. Wir gehen davon aus, dass eigentlich jemand durch das Tor reinkommt und wir auch die volle Kontrolle haben über Zugriff, also über wie kommt jetzt jemand da in unser Tal rein und da haben wir hinten dran noch gewisse Hindernisse eingebaut, vielleicht könnten wir das so ein bisschen vergleichen mit einer DMZ. Wir haben vorne eine grosse Firewall und hinten eine kleinere und hinten ist unsere Logik von unserer Unternehmung. Wir haben unsere File-Shares beispielsweise dort und unsere Daten. Von dem gehen wir aus, nur ist der Attacker oder der uns angreifen hat halt auch ein bisschen geschaut und hat gesehen, da unten durch, bei diesem Bergli, kann ich noch einen anderen Weg gehen. Ich kann relativ einfach auf einem Umweg zu diesem Schatz kommen. Und die Problematik eigentlich am Ganzen ist, dass wir uns konzentriert haben auf einen zentralen Weg, wie die Daten fließen. Aber heute ist es eigentlich nicht mehr so, dass Daten einfach zentral über einen Punkt fließen, sondern wir haben auch Personen, Menschen, Mitarbeitende, die draußen sind, die vielleicht ein Notebook haben und unterwegs sind und im Zug arbeiten oder von daheim aus arbeiten. Und die Kontrolle ist nicht mehr genau gleich. Also nur weil wir ein VPN haben und eine zentrale Firewall, ist es wahrscheinlich nicht so, dass wir keine Umwege haben, wie wir an unseren Schatz auf der rechten Seite kommen. Und darum ist es eigentlich etwas vom Wichtigsten, dass wir als Defenders unser Unternehmen schützen, indem dass wir versuchen, stärkere Kontrollen einzuführen, dass wir auch kontinuierlich testen und monitoren und nicht einfach das Gefühl haben, jetzt nur weil wir eine zentrale Firewall gebaut haben, ist das sicher. Das ist natürlich so, dass das auch dazugehört in der Security. Das möchte ich gar nicht schmälern hier, sondern möchte einfach zeigen, dass es wahrscheinlich nicht der einzige Weg ist, den wir brauchen, für etwas zu protecten. Im Zusammenhang mit dem Projekt, wo wir dran sind und auch hatten, ist es vor allem darum gegangen, dass wir eben genau so klassische Lösungen wie zum Beispiel VPN, eine VPN-Lösung, gibt es in diesem spezifischen Fall Cisco VPN-Lösung, können ablösen, wie wir Proxys können ablösen oder um Proxy aus
Entschuldigung, dass ich dir schnell in deine Session
ja.
Aber könnten Sie bitte auf Englisch switchen, weil wir auch englischsprachige Leute haben?
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, okay. Yeah,
Okay.
no problem. Just feel free to. Sorry, I didn't realize that should be in English. Okay, that's not a problem. Yeah, let's switch to English. So hopefully you got all the details I mentioned before, but that's a good point. So at least the slides was or the slide is already in English. That helps definitely. So if we are a defender, we need to have a focus on this authentication things like strong authentication, and we have to also to monitor and control what happens in our system. And based on that, we were deploying a project, or we're currently working on a project where it has focus to get rid of proxy services and get rid of VPN solutions like Cisco VPN solutions. It's still a POC pilot, but we try to get that implemented globally. It's a global company which has multiple sites around the world, and this is the main goal, to have more focus on the zero trust infrastructure. So let's have a quick look what it means to get into a modern security way, to have zero trust principles in place. Based on that picture before, we know that most of us still use this firewall thing. So we're here, we have a centralized firewall, but zero trust is looking for different ways to provide security principles. First thing is we need to use least privileged access. So I'm starting on the bottom of this box here, but when we have a look at security landscapes from companies, we very often see that least privilege is not used, or this is not a concept, this is not a model. For example, if we join a device to domain, standard group is added. This is called domain admins, nothing else. This domain admins, they have standard, by default, they are a member of the local admins on clients, and this is not least privileged. No domain admin should ever log in actually on a client, or only in very special cases. But as well, when we look at the cloud, if we join a device to Entra ID, it adds for example, the global administrator group by default to the local admins. And this is definitely also not a good practice to use that. It's default Microsoft. We just need to remediate that. The same happens, or same we see very often in the cloud. So when we get started with cloud services like Azure, we create a couple of global administrators, and we do not use any other roles then. And this is a very, very dangerous thing, at least, or for example, as well, we see that people are synchronizing their admins from the domain into the cloud and use the same account for all their administrative tasks. We recommend to use least privilege. This means at least use privileged identity management in the cloud, get rid of domain admins or global admin groups from the clients. So start with tiering of clients, start with tiering of server systems, and as well access cloud services like Azure or Microsoft 365 services. For example, only use security administrator or use Intune administrator and so on, and not always the global administrator. So this role should be best practice is to have only 5 GAs, but this is not happening all the time and not possible all the time. So, but this is a least privileged access scenario. Verifying, so who has access to which application or also to which device, and which identity is used to access these specific resources. Not just because it's a known device, we do not trust per se also the identity which is used on the device, and maybe also we do not trust per se for the application which will be accessed. And one of the biggest challenge is that we have to look on the assumed breach thing. So what is what is happening if an attacker has the chance to get into our system and to get the information out? He's using maybe a specific device identity, he's trying to do lateral moves and so on. So we need to think about the plan, what happens when we have a breach, when the breach happens, how can we then get back to business? So this is core zero trust principles, these 3 principles. And on the architecture layer, you can see that it includes like identities, it includes devices, also IoT and OT devices security. This is a big challenge because there are not changes happening very often, but the landscape from vulnerabilities is so bright in IoT area. This is very, very difficult to also update and patch management, doing patch management. As well, we have the data layer, and this is our gold. This is really our core infrastructure, our intelligence. And if attackers are able to get the data out from our storages, from our cloud services, then this is a very, very high, has a very high impact. How does that fit into the global secure access area? So I tried to highlight this capability mapping. This is not a Microsoft slide. This is from NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, how actually Microsoft is included into the NIST landscape. We see on the left side that the endpoint security is used for global secure access. We have the big engine Microsoft Entra, which helps us to protect the access to our internet resources, intranet resources as well, and our on-prem resources using conditional access and together with the global secure layer. We will have a look on that. Also, we'll show you a demo where we see what's really going on there. Then we have the identity stack. There is Entra ID itself. I mentioned that before, but also the Entra ID governance area. It's not there where it will be, but it's kind of part included into the identity credentials access management part. As I mentioned before, the central thing for zero trust or also for global secure access is the Entra ID conditional access platform. On that platform, we can decide who and which client will have access to which application. When it comes to Entra Private Access, I will talk about in a bit. It's where we can access private resources like a file share. And the very nice thing on that is that we have a full integrated enterprise application in Entra ID, where we also can then use the conditional access policies, for example, to provide specific conditions on that. If the device is known by our company, by Entra ID, it's a known device, we allow access, or we do even a stronger authentication than we have usually. So, for example, we use a FIDO key for this access. So let me jump into what is GSA. So GSA, when it comes to GSA, we are talking about security service edge area. This security service edge area, you may be using a different one, like a Zscaler. Zscaler is one of the most common security service edge provider. We are trying to get rid of this VPN. So let's always think a little bit of that. And we also try to get more controlled traffic for our Microsoft 365 services we use, and also for the internet access. Now we are able to provide that service as well. So on the left-hand side, we have our user, we have our endpoints, and as well, we got some remote networks. Maybe if we're a more larger company, then we have usually a couple of sites there, and there are remote networks available. With Microsoft Entra Conditional Access, we can now terminate everything, what we see on the right-hand side, terminate at the conditional access engine on the SASE, so on the Security Service Edge platform. This is it's managed by Microsoft. We do not have access to configure this details for sure, but we are able to provide more details about applications and conditional access. Based on that, the SASE solution includes Microsoft Internet Access and Private Access. Those are the main 2 points, and it provides a dedicated tunnel to this specific application, which we are going to configure. And again, on that page here, you can see the zero trust principles. So it's on the very bottom. We have the verify explicit part, so that we are going to verify which identity is trying to access, for example, here, a file share on-prem, or which endpoint is he allowed to access our Microsoft 365 application. This is what we verify using the engine conditional access. As well, we are going into that thing that we think, okay, we will have a breach once. That's why we are trying to get this more detailed and controlled over the time. This is a very similar page, but it helps us to understand a little bit more what kind of solutions are available in the security service edge area. So we are talking about internet access. This is now in a public preview. So we have the full integration of internet access. We have Entra Private Access, and it's also included in Defender for Cloud Apps, like we have the web proxy availability. So first, let's talk a little bit, before I show you a short demo about the internet access. So mainly Microsoft 365, this is one area we can use the internet access feature. We can force our Microsoft 365 apps traffic, most of the Microsoft 365 app traffic, I have to say, to Entra engine to the SASE. Currently not supported is Teams. So Teams is not a part of this Microsoft 365 apps traffic, but this will come. We have the option here to better protect against internet threats because our traffic checks from which device does it come, where is it tunneled to, and it goes and terminates at the Entra SASE. So token stealing is not is a very common attack scenario, and this will not be possible anymore with the SASE here. Because also we have the option to get into compliant networks. We can provide remote networks, and try them or say to these networks they are compliant networks. If you connect from this network, we are trusting these sources as a compliant network, and this is also used with conditional access. I will show you in a bit. Universal tenant restriction is actually tenant restriction version 2. If you have dealt with tenant restriction version 1, you knew that we had this authentication plane available with settings you had to set on the devices using a policy. So tenant restriction means I'm only able to access from my client one tenant. So we have to decide which tenant. For sure, we will take our tenants where all the data and the services are running, and we can protect that no other tenants can be accessed from a device. This is a possible solution. This is available for a while, the version 1. Now it came in with version 2. Version 2 has an additional option. It's called data plane. The data plane allows also to protect our data, which is a very nice feature. So data plane allows to protect the data which is leaving these networks. We can now, since it's in public previews, use the Microsoft Entra Internet Access. This allows us to create a forwarding profile dedicated for the public internet traffic. So we will also force all the internet traffic from our clients straight to the Entra SASE, and it will terminate there. And we have again the policy engine conditional access where we can configure and set policies using conditional access policies, who has the option to access the internet, for example, and using a web content filter as well. So the web content filter was also released in public preview 2 or 3 weeks ago, I guess, shortly before Christmas. It's a very nice feature. It was announced at the Ignite that it will be available by the end of the 2023 year, and that happened. So we're now able to use that. As well, the universal conditional access policies are available for all the internet traffic. Those 2 slides are internet traffic. I will show you in the demo later. Then it comes to private access. What is private access and how can we use that? It allows you to secure access company resources using the Global Secure Access Agent installed on your clients. For me, that's one of the most biggest benefit, and it was the miss or one of them, but it was the really missing part for going completely zero trust. Let's discuss that, or let's say we have all our clients Entra ID joined. We have a lot of resources already in the cloud, like SharePoint moved. We have Exchange Online used. We use Azure as a platform for our services, but maybe we do still have some legacy application or based on compliance parts that we cannot move applications into the cloud. Then it comes really with that private access. We can force the traffic to that private access profile. It uses in the backend Azure Application Proxy Services. It's a version 2 of this application proxy, a newer version. So you need the latest version installed, at least one connector you need to have. I'll show you that as well in a bit. And then per application you like to deploy, file share, RDP access, a printer, or even a web application only running on your on-prem system, you can provide that through the internet access or private access case, not internet private access. We have the complete deep conditional access integration. This is a very interesting part, because we had one scenario as well in that project that when it comes to RDP and you don't have a special application installed to manage the RDP access, you can now use RDP with step-up authentication or with strong authentication. So if I click on the RDP link from my client, it tries to connect me, it uses MFA, and then maybe we need to use a passkey like a FIDO key. I show that to you also in a bit. So it helps also to migrate. It's not the agent can be installed side by side. We also tested that with Cisco. You can use Cisco still for sure. You need to have a look on the whole routing. How is the network going on? But it's possible to have a third party installed, and but the routing and the configuration must be correct. But it can be side by side. What kind of support do we have on the clients for now? So Windows 10 and 11 is fully supported. Entra ID joint is recommended. It's not anymore a requirement. It was before, but you can also use hybrid joint machines. When it was released, the feature was a requirement that it needs to be Entra joint only. This is, as I said, not a requirement. You need local admin permissions to install the agent for sure, and it uses a lightweight filter, so not a full driver on the VPN sites. This is that's why it's possible also to use it side by side. Android app was released also by the end of 2023 in December. It's available in public preview. You can install the app. Let's say the app is not called Entra SASE or so. It's the Defender app. So Microsoft Defender for endpoint app you need to install on your Android device, and then you can start using SASE possibilities and capabilities on your Android. iOS and macOS will follow shortly. It's currently in private preview, but it's not accessible anymore for joining the private preview. Okay, let's jump into the demo. When we look at the client, so this is a Windows 365 machine. We have here installed the agent. So this is a very tiny agent. It helps you to get a couple of logs ready so we can run the client checker. This does not require any admin rights. It's because also for troubleshooting to help the help desk, for example, or the engineering team, is it working as expected? When we run this tool, it scans the latest event logs, for example. It shows, was there a process which was crashing? Is it still okay? Do we have access to this magic IP or to this magic IP or URLs here? The global secure access.microsoft.com, that's the main URL which is used for global secure access. It tries to reach or reaches the Microsoft 365 endpoints, so the Microsoft 365 internet endpoints. It also tries to reach the private channels if enabled. If private channels are active, then the traffic profile will show up here. Is the internet channel reachable? it says yes. So, and is the tunneling successful? That's very helpful for troubleshooting. The agent is very light, as I mentioned. It can be installed in a couple of minutes, and then it goes actually and tries to connect. Let me first go to the next slide before we start the other demo. We have a Microsoft 365 traffic forwarding profile. What is required to set that up? We need the GSA administrator roles required. We also need at least during the preview now Entra IDP1 license. I guess this will not stay there, but it's nothing announced yet and available. Just be aware if you go with the POC or pilot, that it will change in the licensing model. Maybe it will be an add-on, maybe it will be P2. I don't know yet. So we will get information of that for sure latest short before it goes GA. To create a traffic forwarding profile, you need to decide for which traffic you would like to forward. So Exchange Online is available, SharePoint Online, which includes also OneDrive for Business for sure. And so this Microsoft 365 common online services, Graph Access, for example. I mentioned that before already. Teams is not yet supported. It's not part of the Microsoft 365 service. There is no public announcement when it will be there, but we can be sure that it will be implemented for the Microsoft 365 traffic. There are two actions available when we create these policies, these traffic profiles. It is either to forward, that's what we would like to have, but we are also able to bypass specific URLs or specific services, even if you have the policies that all Exchange Online service should be forwarded. And this then can be linked to conditional access policies. How does that look like? If we go to the portal, the portal is, by the way, Microsoft.com. So you will not find that in the Azure portal, Azure.com. You need to go to the Entra portal. You got this new option here. It's called Global Secure Access. That's the name which Microsoft provides and named the product. When you start with the very first time, you need to enable the option Global Secure Access. This is nothing doing really in the back end. It's doing something for sure. It allows you to configure conditional access based on that. Otherwise, it will be grayed out. I show that also in a bit. The menu is built on a couple of points like the dashboard. We have the dashboard where we see the last 24 hours mainly, how many clients are connected, which users are connected, and to which destinations the traffic was going. So for example, here, if we click on, finally that's here, was not there for a while, and that's very special when you click on it and you don't see anything. So we see now, okay, we have during the last 24 hours, we got 4 devices, and it shows here 3. It's very interesting, but as I mentioned, it's still in preview. So don't take everything very personally if something is not working. And we see also the users who were connected. So our demo users, for example, which traffic type was used, Internet, Microsoft 365 traffic. That's the dashboard. We also have the top destinations mentioned here. That's very, very nice. So we have Microsoft 365 here. We can have a look on that. Okay, most of the endpoints were login Microsoft 365 online.com. We have the graph endpoints. We have Office, Outlook, Scopewise Labs, my SharePoint site. Internet access, which internet access was used. this is going to report everything if we do forward internet traffic for sure, because the whole internet traffic is used, and this will be monitored by the SASE also to block, for example, specific URLs or domains. We have an option for private access. We can have a look on that. You will see that in a couple of minutes when we go to the private access profiles configuration. So the domain controller, which is running all our private applications, is here top of all the logs. Then it comes to the applications. As I mentioned before, we need an enterprise application will be created if we do private access. We need a application proxy in the backend. Show that in a bit. First, I would like to show you the connect part, but quickly go through the menu. We have quick access option. We have enterprise application option. So the quick access is really for just testing. If you would like to go very quickly into an application and trying to maybe allow a full FQDN segment or IP segment just to test. Do not overlap the quick access with enterprise application. This is not supported, so better start using enterprise application instead of quick access. Here you see the connector groups. This maybe you know from the standard application proxy. It creates a connector group, a new one. If there is no one, it will be the first one and default. Maybe you have to move that as well into a different name. When it now comes to the first step we usually do, it's creating a traffic forwarding profile for Microsoft 365 Access. You have to enable that, and then you need to select what kind of traffic you would like to forward to the endpoints or through the SASE from Microsoft. You have seen in the slide there is a couple of options you have. These are the main URLs which are used for Exchange Online. This is also nice documentation, so you know what kind of endpoints are used. If you decide for any reasons to use SharePoint traffic forwarding, but maybe not for a specific, I'm just taking something, not for a specific SharePoint.com URL. You have the option to bypass that here, but for now, since we've done this couple of projects, it's not really what we use, because the reason why you use GSA is to forwarding the traffic, and but the option is there. Then you can save that, and as soon as you save that and the client is installed, actually traffic is already forwarded. It's very simple to do. The same you have to do for private access profiles. You have a couple of profiles here already configured, so no quick access. We have a couple of applications provided, but first of all, you have to enable this. Same with the internet access profile. To download the client, you can find here the client download link directly. Also, this client is updated quite often. It's not auto-updated yet, so if you install it, you will stay on that version. Just realized that I have in the lab a quite old version, didn't update, but it's still running. There shouldn't be a big impact, but we recommend just also when you do the piloting that you always try to get the latest agent. On the remote networks, you have the possibility to create and use these remote networks where you then can set some specific bandwidth capacities, but also to provide a compliant network to the SASE. So it's like on the zero trust layer, network layer, this network will be a trusted network. If it comes to security or to be secure, you have the secure option now, like the web content filtering policies. So it's a very nice new feature. You can edit some web contents. So for example, blocking some certain destinations. You can also add multiple categories like hacking, pornography, all that we know from standard web content filters. Those categories are identical like the categories you have in Defender for cloud apps, or Defender, I have to say, web content filtering. It's the same, and it's used on the same platform. Under monitoring, you get all the traffic logs for this traffic we've just seen, depending on traffic logs. Let's click on the right one. Depending on the connections, what kind of traffic was used, and it's filterable. Guess enriched Microsoft 365 is not yet available. There is a private preview link to use these workbooks and logs, but it's not public available. For the session management, so if we would like to have a tenant restriction, we need to enable this option. It has a quite impact to the users, so be aware what you do, not the option itself here, but the configuration of tenant restriction that will have an impact on the platform the users using. Adaptive access allows you to use continuous access evaluation. So if I, for example, switch into a different network from my current network, the access evaluation will happen. So system, the Entra conditional access platform will check, is this remote network still compliant, which is used, or is it maybe not compliant anymore? Is the identity still okay, or is the identity leaked, for example? It's impossible travel. Then MFA will be raised. Another authentication must be made by the user. How does that look like? So if we quickly switch to go away. So let's do that here. If we go, yeah, I would like to show you the conditional access part. So if we create a new policy, we select the users we need to target and then the target resources. And if you enable internet access and private access traffic profiles, you will get this option here, global secure access preview with those two options. Private traffic is not yet here available under this settings, but as you can see, it's already there. It's still grayed out. If you go to the client, back to the client, it already pops up here with a very nice question because the password has changed. This machine is Entra ID joined. If I show you that. If it then runs. Doesn't like to run. However, you would just need to believe me that it's really Entra ID joined machine. We see we have access to a file share here, and this file share is hosted on on-prem server, so no file share is attached. The machine is not joined to a domain. We're just able to browse that using our standard way to browse to. Just change the password, that's why it's popping up here. Exactly, so it's loading again. We also have an IIS running on that machine. We're able to browse to that machine through a private access profile, so no specific VPN agent or something is installed. Maybe that's the reason here. Huh? There we go. So it's connected. That's good demo. It's always like that. Where is that configured that we have this access? Show you that in the portal. So if we go back to the portal, we have these specific applications on the GSA where we can go and create enterprise applications. And if you have used enterprise applications in the past, you're aware how and what you can configure on these applications. So for example, here the RDP or the SMB share shows me option network access property to which application or to which on-prem resources I would like to connect. So first of all, I have to create or add a name, then using the GSA connector, the application proxy we have installed before. We enable that for global secure access. We can also disable that if required, or maintenance must be made or something like that. And then we have to add our application segment. Under application segment, the options are IP addresses, full qualified domain names, a range of IP addresses, or a range of IP to IP. So like a subnet here. As well, the ports need to be set for sure. So if you select IP address or if you select FQDN, same questions come here and needs to be filled out. What kind of port do you like to use to access this application? This can be the application port which comes from the vendor. It's not required to have any specific ports defined before. So for SMB, we need 445 and 139. And if the authentication happened now here in the back, it's not really working. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that was an authentication issue because the password did change. We have the option to access this file share, which is really provided as a simple share on the domain controller itself. The very interesting thing is that we can integrate that with conditional access. And the last thing I would like to show you is the RDP part. So if we create an RDP profile, which is just using 339 to the domain controller here, this is the IP address from the domain controller, we can configure a conditional access to use a stronger authentication. If I go back to the client here, and I say, okay, I would like to access my IP4 here. Let's say connect RDP. So it's raising, okay, we need to add, we need to authenticate ourselves as modern authentication to RDP. Don't miss that. It's going to use modern authentication. And now it says, okay, it requires more information. More information, in this case, the admin requires first the MFA authentication. And then in a second step, we force a strong out like FIDO. So before I can access this application, RDP in that case, I need to have a FIDO key configured. We're not going to do that yet now, but just to show you, okay, this is possible because it's integrated into the conditional access policy engine. Okay, with that, we are coming to an end of the session. I would like to thank again the sponsors, and also would like to thank the organizers, and yeah, go to the next sessions, which will start in a couple of minutes. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Not so far? Okay, then thank you very much and have a great weekend. Enjoy it like I will do.